Hai, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi my friends, I am Rihlah, your Islamic storyteller. Today I want to share the story of a true genius, someone so brilliant it's hard to describe. He wasn't just a talent in one area, he mastered many people call him the father of modern medicine. His name is Ibn Sina, or as he's known in the West, Avicenna. He was born in the Avicenna near Bukhara in the year 980 CE. Back then, the Islamic world was shining in its golden age. Ibn Sina grew up among scholars, and before long he became what we call a polymath, a person who mastered medicine, philosophy, astronomy, math, logic, and even poetry. Now, let's pause for a moment. When you were 10 years old, what were you doing? Probably just playing outside or maybe struggling with homework, right? Well, at 10, Ibn Sina had already memorized the entire of Quran. By the age of 16, he was diving deep into medicine, not just studying, but actually treating real patients. And then at just 18, he was called to help a prince who had fell seriously ill. The prince looked pale, weak, and none of the royal doctors could figure out what was wrong. They tried medicine after medicine, but nothing worked. But Ibn Sina didn't panic. Instead, he calmly sat beside the prince and started asking questions about his home, his favorite place, his friends, even about a girl he liked. Each time the prince answered, Ibn Sina gently checked his pulse. And then he noticed something unusual. The prince's heartbeat changed whenever that girl's name came up. That's when Ibn Sina figured it out. The prince wasn't suffering from some mysterious disease. He was simply lovesick. His illness wasn't physical, it was emotional. Once Ibn Sina revealed the truth and arranged for the young man to be with the one he loved, the prince's health came back almost instantly. This brilliant diagnosis left everyone amazed. For the very first time, people realized that emotional could actually cause real illness in the body. As a reward, the prince gave Ibn Sina something priceless: access to the royal library, packed with a rare manuscript from all over the world. Now just imagine being 18 years old, solving a medical mystery that the top doctors couldn't handle, and then being handed the key to the greatest library of your time. That moment was the real beginning of Ibn Sina's journey as a world-shaping genius. Ibn Sina never went to a school like the ones we know today. He learned from private teachers, local scholars, and most of all, by teaching himself, he devoured books on philosophy, math, medicine, and theology. And whenever he got stuck, he would head to the mosque, pray, and wait until the answer became clear. For him, faith and knowledge were always deeply connected. Long before psychology was even a thing, Ibn Sina had already noticed the link between the mind and the body. He understood that emotion and stress could actually make people sick. Some patients didn't need surgery or medicine. What they needed was comfort, poetry, or even music. So he treated sadness and depression with stories and song. Over 1,000 years ago, he was already practicing something very close to psychotherapy. And of course, Ibn Sina's biggest legacy in his book, Al-Canon fi al-Tib, or the Canon of Medicine. This masterpiece covered disease, anatomy, treatment, and pharmacy so completely that it's become the standard textbook in Europe university. For more than 600 years, he even described blood circulation, infectious disease, and the basic concept of quarantine. Ideas that were way ahead of his time. So let's pause here and highlight a few of his discoveries that truly changed the world. First, He transformed medicine into a systematic science with the Canon of Medicine. 2. He pioneered the idea of psychosomatic illness. 3. Showing how the mind affects the body. 4. And he used music and storytelling as actual therapy. Ibn Sina documented over 700 medicine, laying the foundation for what we now call modern pharmacy. He explained how some illnesses are contagious and even suggests quarantine as a way to stop outbreaks. He studied the heart and blood circulation, an early step toward what later became cardiovascular science. And in physics and optics, he built on Ibn al-Haytham's work, improving theories of how light and vision actually work. All of these contributions shaped not only the Islamic world but also Europe, influencing medicine, psychology, and science for centuries. But here's the thing, my friends, not everyone agreed with Ibn Sina. One side, he was admired as the peak of Islamic science. Doctors in both the East and the West praised his genius, and his book guided medicine for hundreds of years. On the other side, he had critics. Some of his philosophical ideas were really controversial. For example, he argued that the universe had always existed alongside God instead of being created from nothing. This was a big deal. The great Imam al-Ghazali even wrote the Hafut al-Falasifah, the incoherence of the philosophers, while he lists 20 major mistakes of philosophers and said 3 of them were outright disbelief. And yes, Ibn Sina was one of the philosophers he was talking about. Ibn Sina's explanation of prophethood also raised eyebrows. He described prophet as human with perfect imagination, able to receive revelation. For many theologians, this sounds like reducing the divine nature of prophecy. And then, of course, his lifestyle became part of the debate too. Some stories say he joined social gatherings, even rumors about wine. His critics used these things to question his piety. But let's not forget the other side. In his writing, Ibn Sina often quote the Quran and Hadith. And when we look at his final days, the picture is much clearer. At 57, he fell ill. He stopped treating himself, freed his slaves, gave away his wealth, and spent his last days listening to the Quran until he passed away in 1037 CE in Hamadan, Iran. So, in the end, he was both admired and criticized, a genius and a believer, but also a man whose ideas pushed boundaries and sparked debates. Maybe that's what true greatness is. Not everyone will agree with you, but no one can ever ignore you. One of Ibn Sina's famous saying was, "The most valuable skill a human can have is the ability to make a decision." And that makes total sense, right? All the knowledge we gain should guide us to make wiser choice in life. So that's the story of Ibn Sina, brilliant, controversial, inspiring, and truly unforgettable. If you want to explore more about him, you can still find the Canon of Medicine today, both online and offline. It remains one of the greatest treasures of Islamic civilization. Thank you so much for joining with me, my friends. And don't forget, at just 18, Ibn Sina was already courting prince and unlocking royal libraries. What about you? What doors do you dream of unlocking in your own life? See you in the next story, inshallah. If I got wrong and if you want to add something, you just text in below comment. Thank you for the next story. Bye-bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.